Well, seems I can't catch a break when it comes to being able to cover content. I can barely finish Icewind Dale and planned top 10 videos before we get new news for Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So get this, D&D Celebration 2020 is this coming weekend, the 19th through the 20th, the 18th through the 20th, conjunction with some of that stuff's going to be co-streamed via PAX online, which is currently happening right now. And the Adventure League Player's Guide version 10 has been released right now, covering the Icewind Dale stuff that's coming out. And as we know, there's going to be previews of 2 new subclasses that are going to be debuted in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and that is the Genie Warlock and the Wild Soul Barbarian. That being said, though, which I will cover those in a future video, but I want to analyze the 2 classes side by side. Part of the player's guide is going to give you the option for customizing your character. And this is going to probably answer all of our questions regarding the Lineage system, because it's what's going to be live in the Adventures League come this weekend. Now, I think there is a qualifier somewhere on there that says something along the lines of this is like early playtest content as of September 15th. It is subject to change, but the book's 2 months away. It can't change that much. So let's jump into the player's guide here. So if we take a look, it's going to tell us a couple different things. One, I guess this will kind of be some AL preview for those of you who are unaware, but create a new first level character for use in this season, play in a suitable adventure or Icewind Dale. What books can I use? And it says when creating and advancing a character for Player's Handbook +1, we refer to this campaign rules Player's Handbook +1. Icewind Dale, Mordenkainen's, Tasha's, Volo's, Xanathar's Guide. Then it says choosing your race. All races in the PH are appropriate for this campaign. Additionally, you may select a race from the list below: Azamar, Firbolg, Goliath, Kobolds, Tabaxi, Deep Gnome, Dwergar, Eladrin, Gith, Shatterkai, and Tiefling subraces. Choose your class from either Player's Handbook, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, in the upcoming Tasha's book. Choose a background from Player's Handbook or any 5th edition product listed. Alternatively, you can customize your own. This is not restricted. Use the following ability score creations: alignment, deities, trinkets, equipment, and then here's the different rewards for level up for playing in Icewind Dale the Adventure. There's your magic item limit for the different tiers that you're in, which is relatively new for me. The limited number of magic items you can have. And then gold piece limit by tier. I guess you now have a limit to how much gold you can get, which is kind of dumb to me, but whatever. We have some downtime rules and then factions, but here it is, customizing your origin in D&D. So this is kind of what I guess the legacy system is going to be. Ability score increases. Whatever D&D race you choose for your character, you get a trait called Ability Score Increase. This reflects archetypal examples of that race. For example, if you're a dwarf, your constitution increases by 2 because dwarf heroes in D&D are often exceptionally tough. This increase doesn't apply to every dwarf, just to dwarf adventurers, and it exists to reinforce an archetype. That reinforcement is appropriate if you want to learn or lean into that archetype, but it's unhelpful if your character doesn't conform. Makes sense? If you'd like your character to follow their own path, you may ignore your ability score increase trait and assign ability score increases tailored to your character. Here's how to do it. Take an ability score increase you gain in your race or sub-race and apply it to an ability score of your choice. If you gain more than one increase, you can't apply those increases to the same ability score, and you can't increase a score above 20. For example, if the ability score increase trait for your race and sub-race is Constitution +2, Wisdom by 1, you could increase your Intelligence by 2 and Charisma by 1. So it sounds like it's just going to let you free it up, which means that in theory, Mountain Dwarf is super powerful because it's +2 to 2 stats. So you could choose to take a +2 Intelligence, +2 Constitution, and now be a badass wizard dwarf with armor and still get your Intelligence bonus if it stays the same way. So let's talk languages. Typically, your languages are common and a language of your ancestor. It says, for example, a halfling adventurer is assumed to know common and halfling. Here's the thing. D&D adventures are extraordinary. All your characters might have grown up speaking different languages from the ones in the language trait. To customize the languages you know, you may replace any language in the language trait with the following list. Abyssal, Celestial, Common, Deep Speech, Draconic, Dwarvish, Elvish, Giant, Gnomish, Goblin, Halfling, Infernal, Orc, Primordial, Sylvan, or Undercommon. Your DM may add or remove from this list depending on what languages are appropriate for your campaign, right? You notice like Gnoll, Giant Eagle, those aren't on that list. Then the one that we were all curious about, proficiencies. Some races and sub-races grant skill, weapon, or tool proficiencies. These proficiencies are usually cultural, but your character might not have any connection to the culture in question, or might have pursued different training. You can replace each one of those proficiencies with a different one, as shown on the proficiency swaps table. Skill for skill, simple weapon for simple weapon or tool, martial weapon for simple/martial weapon or tool, and tool for tool or simple weapon. For example, high elf adventurers have proficiency with long swords, which are martial weapons. Consulting the proficiency swaps table, we see that your high elf can swap that proficiency with another weapon or tool. Your elf might be a musician who chooses proficiency with a musical instrument, a type of tool, instead of long swords. Similarly, elves start with proficiency in perception. Your elf might not have the keen ears associated with your kin, and you can take the proficiency in different skills such as performance. So here's the thing with that. That makes elves a lot more powerful in tool proficiency wise, because that high elf adventurer gets proficiency in long sword, short sword, longbow, short bow. If you're a high elf fighter and you get proficiency in simple and martial weapons, you can now just trade away, if I'm reading this correctly, 4 weapon proficiencies for 4 tool proficiencies, which might not sound like a lot, but that could be herbalism, that could be tinker, alchemy, and thieves tools. Probably the 4 most commonly used in my mind, especially ones that allow you to do things like brew potions and pick locks. Pretty cool and interesting. And then it says personality. The description of a race might suggest various things about your behavior. You may ignore those suggestions, whether they're about alignment, moods, interests, or any other personality trait. Your character's personality and behavior are entirely yours to determine. And then there's some stuff about renown and how that's handled, but that's Adventures League. So that seems to answer our question, folks. Its ability scores are just swap them on the fly. So again, that still makes Mountain Dwarf and Half Elf in that respect pretty powerful. And then it's going to be proficiencies are swappable. So skills are swappable for skills, which they kind of always were, right? If you, unless it was a one that you didn't really want, but like if you have proficiency from something like from your race, and then you choose that same proficiency from your class, then you can swap it out for anything else. But the interesting one for me is simple weapon can be swapped for simple weapon or tool, and martial weapon can be swapped for martial weapon or tool. So that, again, if you, certain races like dwarves as well also get proficiency with a significant amount of martial weapons, and that could be a bunch more tool proficiencies for you, which is pretty interesting. So I really like this. It's a lot simpler than I thought, and it's not going to be as game breaking as my speculation video was, where you're like, I'm a human with halfling luck. It doesn't work that way. So anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below on how you think, if you think this is going to be what we get in the final product. Again, this is what they're going to do in Adventures League. This is their organized play. It's pretty well refined as what they're going to have it. And it's September 15th. The book comes out in 2 months. Are they going to change it? It's probably already in print at this point. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll see you all next time.